fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. Tonight, I want to talk to you about evaluations, which if you're anything like me, you're just as nervous as giving a regular speech. But if you're not, tonight I'm going to share 5 tips that you can apply to your evaluations so that when you evaluate, you can be diligent in your evaluations. Just a quick show of hands, who has ever given a presentation at work? Okay. And after your presentation at work, did you get feedback from a manager or from a coworker? You typically do. Okay. What about you, Stephanie?
Sometimes.
You do sometimes. Okay. That's great that you did. I often gave presentations at work and still do, but I never get feedback. And I think it's very important for us to get feedback for a myriad of reasons. Number one being so you can improve. If you don't know how you did, how do you know what to improve? That's what Toastmasters is for. Also, I believe, and I have gotten some feedback at work, but I believe that the feedback we get here is a little bit less filtered. Maybe at work, depending on who's giving you the feedback, you might not get complete honesty. If it's from a subordinate, they may not want to point out the areas for improvement. If it's from a superior, they may be too harsh. And that is the reason why our evaluations here are so uplifting and positive and constructive. So the 5 tips. The first one, ring it, is be prepared. First I'll list them and then we can go through each one. Be prepared, show interest, choose your words carefully. Number 4 is evaluate the speech and not the person. And number 5 is keep it positive. The first one is be prepared. Just like when you're giving a regular speech, you want to be ready. And what that means is being prepared as far as knowing the person's objectives. If you can, get their evaluation beforehand so you can see all the objectives of the speech and what they're trying to accomplish so that you can effectively provide feedback. If they don't have an evaluation form, maybe you talk to them and ask them beforehand and say, what is the objective of the speech? That way you know what you're looking for. Arrive early. If you've done the speech before, obviously it'll help because you'll know what the objectives of the speech are. Being prepared is also going to help you be more confident and deliver that evaluation more effectively. Number 2, show interest in the speaker. I always like to apply a personal anecdote or incorporate the person's speech into my evaluation. I had the honor of representing another club in an area contest and I placed 2nd, and I also participated in a contest here and mentored Anna, who represented our club in the area contest. And this is one of the tips that I gave Anna, and I think it really goes a long way in connecting with not only the speaker but the audience in general. For instance, when I evaluated Madeline, she was giving a speech about being a leader, and I added examples, I gave examples of how she's a leader and how she can incorporate that into her speech. So always make it personal, always relate it back to the person's speech and what they were talking about in your evaluation. Make it personal, show interest, even if you didn't enjoy the speech, and usually do, just show interest in the person and what they were talking about. Number 3 is choose your words carefully. And basically, you don't want to say you should do this or you shouldn't do that. You have to do this or you have to do that. Remember that as an evaluator, you're giving your opinion, and that's the way it should come across. Therefore, you should use words such as I noticed this, or I suggest this, or I feel like this. And it's up to the person to determine whether or not they want to accept the feedback or not. But it's always coming from your personal opinion. You should keep that in mind. Number 4 is focusing on the speech and not the person. So you never want to evaluate the actual person or the topic. If the person was speaking about something that you disagree with, you're not up here debating and you don't have a dialogue with the person. So try not to focus on what the speech contest is, but more the presentation. And what that means is body language. How did they use gestures? How did they have eye contact? How was their posture? How was their pitch, their pace, their tone? How did they engage the audience? You want to look at all those things when you're evaluating and provide examples. Don't just say, you should do this or you should do that, or I only saw this, I only saw that. Give them an example. If you think that they could have done something differently, say for instance, you could try this or you could try that. Or have you thought about approaching it this way, or have you thought about doing it a different way? And that goes a lot further in the person's evaluation, because in their next speech they can try to apply your suggestions. Always give them a suggestion. And then lastly, keep it positive. You always want to try to finish off upbeat and leave the person inspired. You want to provide constructive criticism. You never want to make anyone feel bad. There's a couple techniques that I like to use, the 3-2-1 method and the sandwich method. Has anyone ever heard of those? Show of hands if you have heard of it. Okay. So there's a few people that haven't heard of it. They go over it during TLI, and I'll talk about the 3-2-1 method, which is really good. Which is, you want to list 3 positive things about the speech, 2 things that they could improve on, and 1 thing that really stood out to you. So 3, 2, 1. It's really easy to remember. You can also visualize a pyramid. 3, 2, and then 1. I always like to give at least 2 things, and I call them nuggets or takeaways that the person can apply in their next speech to take them to that next level. If you list, I'm not saying don't list several things, you can list a lot of things, but always focus in on 2 things, 2 main things that the person can take away. If they learn nothing else, if they apply those 2 things, it's gonna make them a better speaker. And then the sandwich method. The sandwich method is basically sandwiching your constructive criticism in between positive feedback. The first thing you want to say is something positive, something that you liked about the speech, something really good. Sandwich that in between the criticism or the suggestions. Like I said, try this, try that. I didn't enjoy this, or maybe you could have done this differently. And then sandwich that on the other bookend with another positive, uplifting feedback. And that is the sandwich method. If you apply these methods, you're gonna not only become a better evaluator, but you're also going to learn yourself. I don't know about you guys, but I learn more when I'm teaching something than when I'm just taught. But when you do something, you learn it, but when you teach it, you internalize it. Because you have to explain it, so you kind of have to boil it down to a more simple level. When you teach something and when you evaluate, you're more likely to improve your own public speaking skills as well. Always remember that we're here, obviously in Toastmasters, in a supportive environment. Iron sharpens iron. If you don't have that feedback, you're not going to be able to know what areas you can improve in. I also suggest, also a little side note, is to record yourself. I'm recording myself right now. You can watch the recording later, and you can pick up on nuances that maybe the evaluator didn't pick up on. So with that, I hope you learned something about evaluating, and you will enjoy your next evaluation.